Welcome to Blue Monday from the Blue Room. It's me, Les, tonight, uh, joined with Dave to talk about some Everton news, which there's not been much of lately, has there, Dave? After a flurry over the last few weeks, it's all gone a little bit quiet, hasn't it?
Funny how people listening to this now. We were talking like 10 minutes before we started and earlier on today. What are we going to talk about? Oh, just say there's loads of news there, Les. There's not much to talk about, is there?
That's it.
Less than 10 seconds in.
Contrary to what people might think, we don't just wing this all the time. We do
No,
actually put a
absolutely
little bit
not,
of
mate. Yeah.
research into it and stuff. But if there's no news, it's quite hard.
It is hard, but it's I don't know. I was only thinking about this before. It feels a little bit refreshing that there's no negative things going on about us, because I know we've spoken about the exciting side of things with owners and signings and things like that. But you take that out of context. There's what we're on the first day since the PSR thing was meant to be due by, so that's still up in the air. We don't know what the full results are for that. Um, there is still plenty of things that Everton need to sort out, rather than just making us all feel really positive about it. And I hate to say that. People will say that's typical of me to say. In the years that they've listened to us, that I'm always going to put a bit of a negative sort of side towards things, but um, there's still crucial stuff to sort out. The other thing as well, we just announced, didn't we, a couple of hours ago, that we're playing Sligo away with
Yeah.
James's old side as well. So that's not as good as it gets, by the way, for anyone who thinks I'm just going to turn off this podcast now that going over to Ireland for the friendly. There's still a lot more to chat about.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do for this one is going to take you back to November last year. Miserable time for the Toffees. When 17th of November, we got given our 10-point deduction. And Ashley Young's been interviewed about this, and he's come out and said sort of how it affected the players. Now, at the time, we were kind of asking these questions, weren't we? Like, how would it affect it? And obviously, once we got that points deduction, we went on that mad 4-game unbeaten run, didn't concede a goal, and everyone thought that's galvanised the team, and everything was all right. But Ashley Young said about it, it's tough because you are winning games and you are playing well, and then you are getting points taken off you, and it's like, right, we've got to go again now. I think we were going through a spell around Christmas time where we went through a difficult period because we had the second points deduction, which was then hanging over us. It's one of the things we had to get on with. As players, you are thinking, all I've got to do is get out there and win games. But that's something that is always in the back of your mind, and you are worrying about it. I think we said at the time, didn't we? It's like, it's sort of, I think I made the comparison of, if you write a big load of work and forget to save it, and then you've got to do it again, and it's the worst feeling in the world. It's horrible because you just can't
Yeah.
be asked doing it again. So if you go out and win those 4 games and then suddenly the league are like, well, actually, that doesn't count for anything, it's going to knock you, isn't it? And I think actually
Yeah,
Young sort of proven that in what he said.
yeah, he has. I was really, really impressed with him actually coming out and being so honest about it, to be honest with you. And look, he said a lot of things you'd sort of assume when you're talking to professionals. Just take away the fact that it's actually football. For professionals like ourselves, what we do for a living, those sort of setbacks it's a kick in the balls, that sort of thing there, like you referred to in the similarity to with the work that you haven't saved kind of thing, and you're putting everything into it. And I know many people, including us, have criticised the way Ashley Young's been at Everton, but I tell you something, if you look at what he's done since and given what he's announced there, it shows you how difficult it would actually be to play at Everton. And I
Yeah.
don't think many of us as fans have really looked at that too deeply. I think it's typical for fans. I'm not saying there's any fan to blame that you're not doing that, but it's probably because it's probably one of the last things that you would be talking about is, I wonder how that lad feels mentally. But I tell you what, that gang of lads there, Sean Dyche, everyone in and involved at the club, coming in after we got those points deductions, mate, would have been really, really difficult. And then afterwards, I think, I remember thinking about it, we got the best manager for this situation. We're the best club to have our backs against the wall in this sort of situation. And dare to say it, that was a bit of a cliche for Everton, given how many times we've been like that. But this time it was for a very, very different reason, where I can only think that, given what Ashley Young said there in some sort of context, when those lads have walked into the changing rooms after that was announced, they must be looking at each other thinking, do you know what? Like, yes, there'll be someone there, proper war cries and all that sort of thing that we've laughed about when, like, Phil Neville and all that, done it over the years. That must have been a hell of a lot different than when you've lost a few games in a row, or you've gone out of a cup tie, or if you are in a relegation zone based on how poor you've been. Everton wouldn't be in that spot we were in had those points not been deducted. So that's a completely different mentality, I think, that we must
Yeah,
have been going through. And then us as fans, when you see that Garnacho goes and scores that goal, you're thinking, mate, just give me the championship badge on my kit right now. Do you know what I mean? It was that was
yeah,
properly the doldrums, wasn't it?
yeah. That was the
And
last thing we needed at that point, wasn't it?
exactly, mate. And then, the way it's all planned out, and the way like we've spoken many times, so I'm not going to go over it too much. But the way a couple of points was given back and all that sort of thing, it was an absolute farce. This will go down in a long way in the history. I was speaking to Lyndon and Steve about the brilliant book they've written about the Machete years. I bet you the gutter that they didn't include this year as well, and they put it out a year later because of the amount of shit we've had in the last season or so. But hopefully, there's not another one to come to carry on through the years because everything seems like it hopefully, touch wood, it's going to be all right. But yeah, I mean, you look back in sort of hindsight at that the season just gone, mate, and the two that preceded it. It does make me wonder how we're still a Premier League club. I'm not just crying that in because you'd have fans of
Oh,
other clubs saying, have
absolutely.
we, or usually just saying you have it much better than us, kind of thing. But I tell you what, mate, Everton still being a Premier League club. If you'd have told me those 3 years that we've had were going to happen, I'd be saying Everton are nowhere near a Premier League side anymore.
No, it is incredible how we have dodged a bullet effectively 3 times there. I mean, last season in particular was like a game of Russian roulette, wasn't it? That was heavily loaded against us. My memory's a little bit sketchy at the best of times, so I've been trying to work out
There's
what
that much that's
points we were on.
happened, mate. You are excused.
I know. I think we were on. I've worked out. I think we were on 14 points when we got that initial 10 taken off, which would have knocked us down to 4 points, I think, in November, which sounds about right to me. Then that hung over us for 3 months
Yeah.
while the Premier League sorted it out. So after we won those 4 games on the bounce, we thought, do you know what? It might not be so bad. Siege mentality, back against the wall. The reality then hit home when we went on that run of 17 games with 1 win. So I think it was Palace just in the middle of that run. Then we beat Burnley. Then we got another points deduction. Then we get walloped by Chelsea. And then we go on that mad, insane run towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
That just like, I think we only lost to Arsenal, didn't we, on the last day of the season in about 7 games.
The one we weren't
So,
asked about.
yeah. So, and we shouldn't have lost that either because that
No,
7 goals shouldn't have counted. But
party time.
if you look at that for a season, that is insane what's gone on there. And, to get hit by the punch deductions and then start to come through the other side, we finally get that win, then get hit with another one, and then get beat 6-1 by Chelsea. I thought that was it. I did the post match from there and I was absolutely furious. It was one of the worst performances I've ever seen. But then they pulled it round after that. And it's like, you kind of wonder what has this squad got in it? Because it's turned itself around
Yeah.
twice there, like massively when it really needed to. And you just sort of think, Dice gets a lot of stick from time to time. The players get a lot of stick from time to time. You got a lot of stick during that sort of winless run. But there's got to be something there for them to have pulled out those two winning runs basically saved us, didn't they? And it's a lot to turn that around, especially when you see the Ashley Young saying that the points deduction really did affect them all, sort of mentally. What do you think it is in that squad that's done it?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting that way you put it because at the time, like, how many times did we had a debate about would you have Dice go and, would you get him go in the summer and all that sort of thing? I think we've safely all got to a position where we're like, he deserves the season to come
Yeah,
and, let's not think about that. But, hopefully we're not in the same position again talking about you sack him and get somebody else in or just stick with him. And I do think there's a massive irony in all that. In terms of had we still had the board that we did that was infamously thrown out on their
yeah.
feet, I don't think Sean Dyche would still be Everton's manager at the time because his run was actually worse than what Frank Lampard got sacked for in the previous season.
It was worse than Mike Walker's, which is the worst
Yeah, I
ever.
remember we were just talking about that. Yeah, and then I mean, I don't know which way to tackle this. What you've mentioned there, whether I'm thinking, do you know what, those players deserve a hell of an applaud. They
It's hard,
deserve
isn't it?
they need you off your cap to them and whatnot, or you're thinking they've been that crap that this is the third time that we're in relegation fight. And then I'm thinking, if you do compliment them, you're thinking, well, they've only done that. It only looks better because of the deductions. A lot of people obviously put an emphasis on the fact that we would have been a mid-table side, comfortably a mid-table side.
Yeah.
I know we've had this debate many, many times. It's not something that I'm particularly a fan of talking about because you could have finished anywhere given those points deductions and what they do in the mentality question you've just asked there. In regards to what it would have been like, I do go back and think that we did have the perfect man in charge there in Sean Dyche. I can't think of many others who come in, and he's the type of fella I think that would relish that sort of that way in which they've got to turn things around. He'd relish walking in with everybody sort of throwing the daggers towards him, saying, "Listen, mate, you're probably going to get sacked. You've got no one to sack you. That's the only reason you've still got your job." I can imagine the players didn't trust him either. And then, in Premier League days, I don't think it's particularly often you see a side who get so much of a hit and so I have to fight so much to get into a position and turn things around. Don't think you see that much these days because I don't think you see many players who are particularly asked about that at the lesser end. Obviously, for title, fighting for titles and stuff like that. Yeah, you're going to see players giving absolutely everything. It'd be so easy for so many of those lads to think, you know what, I'm in a sinking ship here. I want to go anyway. Throwing a little bit that towards Onana at times. A lot of people have given the fact they want him to go. Ashley Young himself, other players you look at, and many have got individuals to sit there and say, I wish they weren't playing for us anymore. But as a group, each of them, I mean, for them to all turn that round, that last 5 games,
It was incredible, wasn't
it? Unbelievable. And each one of them that and I've gone back and watched almost all of them since when things were turned around after that Chelsea game. That first one back after that. I mean, I like you said there down at Chelsea, mate, and how horrible it must have felt making that trip and then coming back. That was it for me. That was definitely definitive Everton have gone. To everybody I knew, every friend, everybody was like, mate, that's it now. We are absolutely gone here. We can't come back from this. Regardless of who we've got to play next, regardless of our remaining fixtures, at Goodison, a derby to come, you've got Arsenal away, you've got half a dozen games left. Everton aren't getting out of this at all. And then the other thing that come about was obviously Forest's points deduction as well. You still everything's up in limbo. Whether even if you do stay up in literal terms, you still could be going down and all that.
Well, we went into that mad situation, didn't we? Whereby it still wasn't sure whether relegation would have been decided on the actual final day of the season. Which makes you think, what the hell are you working towards?
Well, that's it. You still throwing like Burnley, still trying to get a few quid out of us, and Leeds and all that stuff. Yeah. That's probably still being sorted out in the court.
One thing I will say about them is they got relegated ahead of Frank Lampard's Everton. So that's their own fault, and they should really pipe down, to be honest.
You deserve to go down regardless of what's going on there financially or anyone's breaking rules.
100%.
Yeah, and that's. I think in many ways I'd like for me to feel that gives me a confidence going forward as well. But in a typical style of football, not just an Everton type of thing, but when you feel safer, when you start the season clean slate, I still think it's particularly difficult for any manager to keep it in their mind that they've still got that mentality of going into games where this is must win. You've got to fight for this shirt all the time. You've got to go through all the conventional things that you talk about, being at home at Goodison and all that sort of thing. And obviously the thing that's on everybody's mind all the time is going to be last season at Goodison, last game against Team X at Goodison. I wonder how that'll play a big part on many of them as well, particularly the ones who've been here, like stalwarts, like Seamus, Pickford, you'd even throw into that category now. It'd be really interesting to see how that goes. But from what we initially started talking about there, mate, it's I think you're at a position now, and probably certainly I haven't. I know you guys would say you probably have a lot more than me praised how they've stayed in that league, because it's some effort that they've taken to be able to do so.
Yeah, I think so as well. Just to sort of finish off on that, like you said before, you made the point about we would have been comfortably mid-table. Now, like you said, you can't say definitively what would have happened. But
Yeah.
without that point, without the points deduction, we may not have gone on that 4-game run, so we'll never know. But we do go on that 4-game run. We're looking up the table still there. That season could have played out very, very differently there. We could have broken into that top 10 potentially. And it's just a
We were
frustrating
saying
thing
that, Les. We were saying that when we both watched the Burnley away together. We were
Yeah.
watching that, and we were brilliant. Beat Burnley away comfortably. We're looking at each other like, you know what? We'd be comfortably a top 10 side there. You've got what, 8th place, gets you into Europa Conference. You're thinking,
exactly.
you know what? You're not that far away from that, and then it's just madness. It played with your mind that like Everton are probably going to be in a position where in the relegation zone with a few games to go here. Yet, had they not been deducted, we could be a lot further up in the Premier League. It's it's something I think is going to continue as well for many clubs with the PSR things and what we've done with the transfer window with Dobbin and all that stuff. Sadly, that's what it's like these days, isn't it?
Just to pick up on that then, so we obviously that June 30th deadline has passed, and we're still telling Man United to leg it over Brantwaite to meet our valuation or forget it, which you need to carry on with that.
Yeah.
And it does look like we are in a better position to go into the season than we have been. I don't know, for a few seasons, but it's one thing I'm thinking is, are the Premier League like just trying to pull anything out now to try and hamstring us and other clubs with this new thing they've come out with? They're going to look into suspicious transfer activity. And if they're basically sort of saying, if they don't think the value of that player is right between two clubs, like we did with Villa with Dobbin, they're going to look at it as a suspicious transfer. They really don't have the right to do that, do they? If two clubs agree a fee, that's it. That's the end of the matter. That's how much that player's worth, whatever that club is willing to pay, whatever the other club's willing to accept. They can't then start dipping in and saying, not sure about that, lads, because that sends such a dangerous precedent on the whole rest of the league. And bear in mind, like a lot of people have pointed out, Ryan Brewster went to Sheffield United from Liverpool for 23.5 million. Jordan Ibe went to Bournemouth for 15 million.
Solanke the same. I know he's come good now.
2019.
Solanke went for a similar fee, didn't he, as
Yeah.
well? He's only just become good a few years later.
Yeah, that one's played out, to be fair, because I never thought he'd be like as good as he's become, but he has. But
yeah,
a lot of money was paid for like his potential there. Jordan Ibe, nothing's happened. Ryan Brewster's, nothing's happened. But none of these are seen as suspicious. It's just I don't want to go down the whole route of like it's corrupt and they're all against Everton. But again, you look at these things and think, well, are they? What is the game?
You're going down a minefield there. That's it's impossible to judge, because who is it to say what value of a player particularly is?
Yeah.
The only thing that should happen is if, like you say, two clubs agree a fee and then that's it. I get they've put themselves into the position in the Premier League. It's not like you can go and blame clubs about this, because it's pretty obvious the deal that Everton and Villa have done there is to help each other out. Why would they not do that, given what is being thrown against them anyway? I mean, if that's the legal way you can go and do it, then, Sam Teague did a great piece with Matt the other day about the Everton and Villa. He explains it really, really well here, what happened between Juve and Barcelona. Last year, they did something very, very similar with ridiculous amounts of money for a player that probably wasn't worth that. I think you'd say that we're precedents there, and that's the sort of thing we've been using in terms of point deductions. I think this is a brand new one that you're referring to as well, and I think it's the appropriate way to suggest what's going on with this now, because there's clubs that have been doing this in completely different formats for a long time. I think you look at Chelsea, mate. I mean, some of the things that have gone on at Chelsea.
Yeah.
I mean, you wonder how many pieces of paper have been shredded there. Do you know what I mean? But also, yeah, in our position, where can you show me any evidence, or show anybody any evidence that Everton and Villa is foul play? You can't physically put anything on. Dobbin's worth 10 million, or the fellow we can't pronounce is worth 10 million. Do you know what I mean? You can't do that.
And the Premier League shouldn't be coming out and suggesting that they can.
Yeah.
They just should. That's not their place to do that. And I just find it staggering. Like, I don't know, is it the arrogance of Richard Masters? Is it the arrogance of the organisation itself that they can come out and start like giving it this? Because that does nod towards like if we do find something's gone on here, we'll deduct points because that's the precedent now. You do something wrong financially, you get points taken off you. This like don't punish the fans thing. The door's open and that horse is bolted. So it's like any sort of financial incursion now, anything the Premier League are willing to take points off you. And
Yeah,
you look at it in the context of us and the position we're in. I imagine Villa fans are probably feeling the same because they look like they're going to break the monopoly because they
yeah.
finished fourth, quite rightly finished fourth. They had a brilliant season, yet they're getting hit by PSR stuff. Newcastle are getting hit by PSR stuff as well.
Well,
Haven't they
look
just
at the
sold someone for
Gordon and
35 million? And he's
this Gordon and Liverpool story's come out of nowhere as
yeah,
well.
and it's just like I, I just don't know how they judge it. Spurs have just signed a lad from Leeds for £34.5 million. Never ever heard of him. Not
Yeah.
been a murmur about that by anyone.
Yeah, I didn't even. That's the first thing I've heard of it there, mate. What you mentioned, but you look at the thing as well that they were in, or still might be in a lot of trouble for, and Forest for Brennan Johnson as well.
Yeah,
There's a lot. I mean, look, let's be honest. It's Everton aren't going to come out, you know, looking white and proper in any of these sorts of things. But I tell you what, there's nothing wrong with joining it if other clubs are getting away with it, and that's the point I'd emphasise for when you see many other fans of other clubs saying, "Oh, Everton have done this wrong, Everton have done that wrong." Yes, we accept that we deserve punishment for the PSR stuff and the breaches that we've done. That financially we've been woeful. It
yeah,
was the issue we've had is questioning what that punishment should be. When we get to this now, this players sort of thing, it's impossible to judge. Put you can't definitively say a player is worth a certain amount of money. Your club can ask back the question, well, why? Well, because he scored that many goals this season. He created that many chances. Like, how are you going to
yeah,
judge that that player is not worth that amount of money? I mean, you go back, I refer to it quite a lot with the Abramovich years, which basically broke the mold of football in the Premier League, didn't it?
yeah.
And you think of remember the absolute shite they signed. Remember Kejman who went there? You
Oh God,
played
yeah.
silly money for him and he was crap. You think of all sorts that came in there. Even Shevchenko was woeful when he went there for silly money. Scott
So
Parker.
one thing on him, right? This is the hill I'm going to die on. Shevchenko was shite. I judge him on Chelsea and that miss in the 2005 European Cup
And his
final.
pen. And his pen as well.
Yeah, and his penalty, shite. Anyway, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah. That's it. But the money he went there with Torres as well, you look at that
That was
and you
50
think
mil,
about,
wasn't it? Yeah. And
yeah, I
that
mean,
was a long time ago.
the only decent thing he did for them was when he scored away at Barcelona in the semi, so they got through to the final when he won it.
Yeah.
But aside from that, the amount of money they've paid on players, I mean, I suppose the only thing the FA would consider as being relevant to this is, well, if you previously look at what that player's career has been like, obviously can't do that in the players in Dobbin because he hasn't been sold. He's from the academy, which I sort of think that's why it goes into Everton's favour
Yeah.
with the books.
Yeah.
But if you look at like a player like I've just said there, like a Shevchenko there, I think he was 30 years old when Chelsea went and got him, and they say, well, we're paying 30 million, whatever it was for him at the time. We're paying 30 million. Then you've got evidence to say he's worth 30 million because he's done this. This is look at that career, look at the stats on that. You can see why he's 30 million quid.
Yeah.
These days with players, I mean, as we're trying to do here with Branthwaite, what tell me what value he is. We'd sit here all day. You can go on social media all day. He's worth 60, 70, 80, over 100. He's going to be better than Stones. He's going to be the best since Bobby Moore. All these sort of things people will say about him might well be the thing that he goes on to do. But where can you show me the evidence that that's going to happen? And therefore, why can how can the Premier League or any other, they'll be getting all sorts of um, different organisations getting involved in this and all that, won't they? Sort of panels and all that sort of shit are going to come into it. You're probably going to see
Yes.
that.
Independent panels again.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Independent panels.
Yeah.
How much is Lewis
Shankly's
Dobbin
goat,
worth?
Dr. Fun's puppet, all the rest of them on it.
That's it, yeah. Independent panel. How much is Lewis Dobbin worth? We're sitting there waiting for it. The Premier League announced Lewis Dobbin is only worth 9.9 million. So Everton have rigged getting an extra 100 grand for him.
The thing
It
is,
just
though,
it.
it'd
Go
be
on,
like
sorry.
Lewis Dobbin's worth 9.9 million. Yeah, cheers, lads. He's 26 now.
Yeah, that's the other thing as well. it's making me feel sad. I said this to Matt last week as well. It makes me feel quite sad about that's what footy is these days. Look, we've spoken about it many years. And again, the success we've had back in the 80s and stuff. I was only thinking about this with Lyle Tilsley having his last commentary game with
Oh yeah,
ITV. And working at Radio City, he used to have to go through the archives a lot. And he started his career on radio
yeah,
with our success and all that. And like, proper nostalgia of Everton being successful. I mean, you think back to football back then and a transfer, finance wise, it's not, you get a new player for like 20 ciggies or whatever. Here now, mate, this is the second. It seems like the second generation, like a second Star Wars film we're going into now. Having gone through the breaches, PSR, now we're getting into players and how people are trying to level the books out by swapping
yeah.
players. It's just crap, isn't it? Where we've spent the first 20 minutes of this pod talking about how our lads did on the pitch, how we managed to stay up, but we're talking about it for the reason that has come that we were in that situation
Well,
due to the
yeah, and
points.
it's annoying, isn't it? Because as much as we don't really like talking about it, and that's not what people get into football for.
No,
It's become such a massive part, and and I said about the June 30th deadline passing. We've now got like two sort of transfer deadlines in the summer. You got this June 30th one to pass PSR,
mm,
and then obviously the transfer window closing on September 1st or whenever it is. It's just draining, isn't it? To keep going back to this and trying to think, well, can we do this? And, you see you play, seen Everton linked with players for like 30 million, and you can't get excited about it because you're like, there's absolutely no way we're paying that much on a player.
yeah,
If or you think, okay, maybe we're getting new owners, maybe we can, and then you're suddenly thinking, but then will we get hit with the points deduction because the
mm.
books won't balance over the last 3 years, and it's just like it just blows my mind. It's just
Well,
I hate maths as it is,
you
so to
see
have
it
it like
going
creep its
through.
way into football.
Yeah, I mean, you see it going through government now as well, don't you? And white paper stuff and all sorts of things. I'd actually like to see something like that, like a white paper that comes out and tells you exactly what this is all about here, because it's very cloak and dagger. It has
Yeah,
been since day dot, hasn't it, with what you can do with money and again refer back to Chelsea with 8-year contracts and things like that, and clubs that have made it seem fine. You look what's going on at City. People banging on about the 115. Think people will end up getting it tattooed on the 115 sanctions that they're with at the moment. How long is that going to last? And
yeah,
if how long it matters, how far should it go back? And we had that discussion about why I think you would be aggrieved if you were a Leeds or a Leicester fan or Southampton when they've gone down, or Burnley as well. That when they've gone down, they're thinking, well, if Everton had those deductions in the season, he probably could have. Then we'd still be in the league. So it's like I said, that way that it's a complete minefield. And mate, I just can't wait for the start of the season and watch some footy on the pitch. Do you know what I
I know.
mean?
I'll just finally quickly on that point you raised there about Burnley and Leeds. The Premier League opened themselves wide up to that again last season by rushing through Forest and our second points deduction when they
Yeah,
said they couldn't do it that season when those clubs asked. So
yeah.
they just like the inconsistency. I mean, we've been over this time and again,
These
but they
thick
just
people, though. How thick have you got to be?
it's
I mean,
mad.
we've referred to it millions of times with Mashiri. Ironically, a man who's meant to be one of the best accountants in the world, but is like actually shite with a calculator in his hands. It just seems like these people that seem to allow this to happen, both at the Premier League and at clubs. How can you get things so spectacularly wrong? It's
Yeah,
it just I don't know how you do that in football. I mean, look, no one's ever going to come out and say it. Remember Keith Winers used to come out and say all sorts of stuff, didn't he, about when he was at the club and stuff like that.
yeah,
Obviously references to what's happened when he was at Everton and could come out and say things now because he'd be free to do so. Um, I'd love to in a couple of years' time or whenever it is for somebody to come out and say, well, we fucked this up because of this, and this. Do you know what I mean? And tell you why it ended up the situation it was. But I'm pretty certain nobody would do that because they made a complete shit show of themselves if they did.
yeah, 100%. Should we finish on a bit of footy?
Go on, mate. Yeah, I think
Go on.
that's sort of
So
thing whatever to
obviously,
do at times.
yeah, occasionally.
Yeah.
The Euros, England squeaked through. yesterday. But sort of during this tournament, Jordan Pickford's become a record breaker, overtaking Peter Shilton's most capped goalkeeper in major tournaments. And I think he's got the clean sheet record in major tournaments as well now.
He has, yeah.
You know, again, he's been dead dependable. Maybe a question mark over the goal he conceded against. I can't remember who it was, but it went in off the post.
Was it?
It was right in the bottom corner. And I think it was
it was Denmark, wasn't it?
Yeah, Denmark. Sorry, yeah. It was a hell of a finish. If he's probably got any weakness, it's that kind of shot, I suppose. But it was a hell of a shot. Saw it late. But I just saw it on the BBC's sort of live streaming of the Slovakia game. The fella doing this. What is Jordan Pickford doing? David Strelak, who was in the centre circle, spots the England keeper well off his line and goes for goal. It falls agonisingly wide. Completely fails to mention the fact that, like, was it Trippier? No, it was Walker, wasn't it? Walker passed it to John Stones while John Stones is looking up in the bloody crowd somewhere, and it just rolls past him. And yet they're trying to blame Jordan Pickford. It just blows my mind.
I mean, I have to be quite quiet what I say about it. No, I'm only joking. I do nothing online at the BBC, so I'm not really sure of this. But you don't have to say his name. I don't know who it was. But then obviously you get completely different angles where I think everyone apart from an Everton fan find it really easy to kick off on Pickford for some reason. He just seems to be a target for everybody to slate whenever they want to. Yeah, that absolutely. I was actually driving at the time when I heard it on the commentary. John Murray and Matthew Upson were saying, and Joe Hart were on the commentary team saying that's nothing to do with him. That's absolutely not his fault at all. You know, why would he not be where he is?
Yeah, he's not going to be in the 6-yard box when there's a free kick on the halfway line.
Exactly. When you watch any game here, like I've got France against Belgium on here, which by all accounts has been crap in the first half, which is almost inevitable when you see two top clubs playing against each other.
Always happens, doesn't it?
Football. Yeah. You know, if a player takes a goal, as simple as that, player takes a goal kick, puts it into the final third, around the edge of the box, the edge of the 18-yard box. That's perfectly natural as a goalkeeper. You're not expecting someone to try and float a 40-yarder, 50-yarder above your head, are you? But for the fault of somebody else.
Yeah, especially not when your team's in possession with a free kick.
Yeah, I mean, that game in itself, and like I think I've said many times, I'm not really interested in England, which I've been slated for. Doesn't really bother me apart from our players. Like, great to see Pickford because obviously it means a hell of a lot to Pickford, so I'll always support him with it. But you know, I just think that the worst possible manager you could get is actually the England manager. You know, I was only thinking this when Frank Lampard was sacked. I was thinking if the stars aligned, I bet you'd Everton linked with him if he lost his job.
God.
But it seems by all accounts, Man United are going to be all over him. If they don't win this, he's probably finished as the England manager. But with seeing them, mate, it's been they end up so lucky with the draw they've got. Because I was only looking at this before. If they beat Switzerland, which they should, I know Switzerland are better.
They do look good, like.
Have you seen who they've got though? If they win that, it's
the easy side again, isn't it, of the draw?
It's between Austria, Turkey, Romania and the Netherlands for the semi-final. I mean, come on. I mean, I remember saying this in the past, and I think was it the last 60 years? Because we played Denmark in the semi-finals and then got beat by Italy in the final, of course, on penalties. And I think, like, you know, how much on a plate do you want it to get to that? Look, when you get to the final, you are playing one of the big boys.
Yeah.
You know, one of these you're playing today, Portugal, Germany, the hosts as well. They always tend to come good despite how crap they've been before it. Germany always seem to rise.
Yeah.
And I just think like that one against Slovakia, I was watching it thinking, you deserve to go now, mate. Even if England get through here, you should sack him and get somebody else in.
Mid-tournament.
Honestly, some of the decisions he makes it's just
no
baffling.
Excuses there with the players.
And he said to him at the end, didn't he? He went, I never feared that we were going to go out. I was like, shut up, mate.
Not even when you put Ivan Toney on with 3 minutes left.
I know that's what you had less than a minute, and you've got one of the prodigy of the sport that England have had for donkey's years. So has to score an overhead to keep you in it against Slovakia, who I think the ranked. And he had this on the radio.
47th, I think.
There you go. Yeah, in the that's it. That point international side. I mean, there's only about 49 countries in the world,
Yeah,
but I don't know. I mean, I was listening to it as well. I only seen the highlights when I got in. So I go and get some of their defenders, mate, because some of them were ridiculously good and one of
yeah.
the most headers I've ever seen in a game.
He's
Just
done the
one.
impossible for me. Southgate.
Yeah,
He's made Phil Foden look shit.
yeah, yeah.
Incredible.
No, I know, and he just seems to put him there on the left hand side. You think as well, he seems to be insistent to Manu as well, who's obviously massive talent from Man
Yeah,
United. You've got a squad there that should, even if it's against the best, if you went through the top 4 or 5 clubs in international sides in the world ranked by the FIFA rankings, England should still comfortably
yeah,
get first or second, and yet who they've played so far, they've taken what they've won 3, drew 2, and you're playing against teams that, apart from let's say Denmark, you and they were unlucky against Germany the other day, but Denmark still aren't like you wouldn't say an elite side.
yeah.
We've struggled against them all, but then again, I know a lot of people will say almost cliche, isn't it? That if you just get through, that's all that matters. But Gareth Southgate saying that all over the place today, and you just got to get through. That's all you got to do. You just got to get through. But yeah, I can't wait till it finishes. What is it? August the 17th, season starts. Mate, can't wait.
Yeah, bring it on. Enough of
Yeah.
this international
Have you
nonsense.
enjoyed it,
I
by the way,
talk.
the Euros?
What's
Have
that?
you been watching it a lot and enjoyed it, the Euros?
When I can, yeah, I've been watching it when I can. Yeah, it's been good. I do like tournaments.
Yeah.
I don't mind England. I do want England to win it for Jordan Pickford. That'd be lovely. The fella deserves a
Yeah, and it
trophy.
would be. Yeah,
He's not going to get one from us. So
well, that's yeah, that's it. And if Branthwaite was there as well, which I'm delighted he's not. I have to say I'm delighted he's not there because I think that's when you're seeing him go almost a lot quicker than he might well end up going before the
yeah.
transfer window
Oh yeah, he gets
finishes.
tapped up there.
Remember, my dad always used to say this to me about England internationals. He used to say, remember he said to me about Michael Ball. Michael Ball got in the England squad for us, obviously late 90s, maybe mid
Yeah, yeah, it
90s.
would have been.
When he was a youngster, he got in and he went, "That's probably the last time you'll see him at Everton." I said, "Why, Dad?" He said, "Because the situation Everton are in, one of those makes an England squad. Look at the fellas they're talking to in the changing room, and each of them will be like, mate, why are you playing there? Why are you playing there? Everton need the money. You could easily come and play for us. Where did he end up at? City, Rangers, where was it over? Ajax, was it? No, it wasn't
Oh,
Ajax,
did he?
was
I
it?
don't know.
He
Yeah,
ended up
he went to
over.
Rangers, didn't he?
Yeah, he was
But
at Rangers. Ended up leaving Everton because he was good. I think it happened the same with Jeffers and look, Rooney at the front and
the
centre of it there. I
the
remember
one with
watching him. Go on,
oh
sorry.
god,
I was just going to say in that against France, which the piece on the BBC is really good on that,
yeah,
with the podcast he's done on there as well. He was talking about when he broke onto the scene in that game in 2004 against France and was just ripping them apart. And then I remember watching that. He was still an Everton player. I was thinking, you're never seeing him in an Everton shirt ever again. And lo and behold, he's off to Man United in the blink of an eye.
yeah.
Um,
The penny dropped for me when Nick Barmby did it.
yeah.
That was when
Oh
the penny
yeah.
really dropped for me.
That's what I mean, mate. It'd be a really interesting stat that apart from Pickford, who's been players that have come back to, at least have another season at Everton when they've been in that squad. Can't
Yeah,
think there was many. Stones, maybe. I don't know if Stones got his debut and then stayed with us another year.
I
But it
can't
does
remember
feel
now.
like an
Even,
inevitability.
even Gary Lineker got off
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
86.
There you go. I mean, yeah, our record for the obviously for England, they're just straight into everyone's eye line, and aren't they? Straight into
Yeah,
Premier League clubs and all that sort of thing. And that's why I was selfishly happy that Branthwaite didn't go. And then because if he did, and if he was playing there instead of Gady's done really well at centre back there, but I don't think he's an international centre back, given how England have struggled as well with the goals they conceded. If you'd had Branthwaite there, I don't think England had conceded a goal. And so
no,
it works both ways because if you looked at him doing that now, you'd be thinking, no, but Man United aren't going near 35 million for him. If he went and won Euros with
yeah.
England,
Well, yeah.
you
Then
look,
it's
you're looking at Everton being saved. You're looking at Everton. Yeah, Branthwaite's just paid for the rest of the stadium. How many
basically
players you want to go and buy?
yeah,
It's that's the sort of the one scale or the other, isn't it? One side of the scale or the other, whether you want them seeing play or not and succeed. But you're right. I think long time saying it, but yeah, Pickford. I'd be made up for Pickford if they won it.
Yeah, it would be lovely. But hopefully you can do something with us next season. You never know. Right,
Yeah.
we'll leave it there, Dave. If you're watching on YouTube, I always forget to do this, and Matt always does it. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment, let us know what you think. Give us a like and a subscribe. If you're listening to the
Yeah.
podcast, give us a rating, give us a share. It all helps. Yeah,
Matt's got loads coming up as well, hasn't he, this week? He's got a few
go ahead.
bits and
What
pieces.
have we got coming up, Dave?
Yeah, we're looking ahead to a new feature on it. Just it's a brief word on it because Matt's sorting it out. Looking at stadiums and how other clubs have gone about moving stadiums. I think he's got one of those shows coming up this week. I think we're doing another look ahead to the new season as well in terms of old, new, bottled and blue as well. You've got more of them coming up as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I've just done Liam and Kev from the Good Times podcast. Got another one coming up. Oh yeah, got another few coming up over the next few weeks. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, and obviously as the season builds up, doing more and more about the transfer window and stuff like that, which we've always done. And I keep on banging on about it because I haven't got around to starting it yet. But Diaries of an Old Lady, going to be going through that throughout the season. Obviously with Goodison's last year. As you've seen, the series 1 and 2's out. It's been out for a few years now. It's still there. If you haven't listened to any of them, they're really good.
Yeah.
More of that coming up throughout the season to come in the future weeks, months, and whatnot. So there's still plenty from us throughout the summer. It's funny telling people because normally most podcasts finish for the summer. Obviously, no games on and all that.
Yeah.
But since we're us, mate, there's still plenty. There's still plenty to talk about daily. There's some sort of other nonsense that's come along that we need to talk about. So yeah, there's always plenty of action for us, and then mailbag as well every week if you're on your holidays. Good listen, isn't it? Sitting by the pool.
Always. And just to prove that, like we always get something out. We've just done best part of an hour there when we had nothing to talk about. So
there you go, mate. I
there
hope people listen to it for the full for the full hour when they started by you saying nothing to listen to, nothing to talk about it.
There you go. Nice one for that, Dave. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you in the week. Keep listening.